All right, we are a week away from the Breeders' Cup. I'm going to take a look at a few races. I'm going to talk about the Breeders' Cup Turf in this video. A mile and a half on the grass, Breeders' Cup at Del Mar this year. I'm going to take a look at the contenders. First, I want to mention a couple of factors that have been prominent in the Breeders' Cup Turf. This race has always been won by a 3, 4, or 5-year-old. No older horse older than 5 has ever won this race. So just quickly looking for the older horses in here. We've got Gold Phoenix as a 6-year-old who doesn't look like a win contender to me anyway. He did get in here last year and completed the Superfecta, finishing 4th at 52-1. We've got Next, who is a 6-year-old who has really come on and running well. Not recently seen on the turf, but is 3 for 7 on turf. But I'm going to assume that Next is going to go in the Classic here and not run in the turf. And then Rebels Romance is the other. Rebels Romance, excellent turf runner, excellent at the distance for Appleby. Won this race 2 years ago with a blistering figure when winning that race here in 2022, but has that negative age factor. Now, is that a trend that can be broken? Absolutely. And if anyone's going to break that trend, this one seems like the one who could do it. And then we've got Sharyar, who does not look capable of winning this race to me based off of this form. So those are the olders. Then there goes Harvard. This one here I don't think can win either. I don't know if they even really know what they want to do with this horse. He's going dirt, turf, back and forth constantly. A lot of different distance switches. Has never run a mile and a half. So a few big factors with these guys. You want horses that have shown that they can win at a mile and a half in grade 1 or grade 2 races. That's really important. The age factor has been in play for as long as the Breeders' Cup's been running. No 6-year-old has ever won. I remember Tin Man quite a few years ago just missed finishing second. I think Tin Man was trained by, might have been Graham Motion at the time. Anyway, there's another factor here. Going back to old Briss statistics, this is another stat that has been around a long time. That what was recommended was to find the winners in the turf races in the Breeders' Cup, which at the time was just the turf and the Breeders' Cup Mile, which was the 1 mile race on the turf. What you would do would go to the current class and the average class of the last 3 on the summary sheet. And you would take a look at the top horse. So the top horse class-wise is Rebels Romance at 126.3. You would subtract 2 full points and only look at those horses. So in this case, well, we wouldn't even be able to have another qualifier if we did that, because Rebels Romance is 2.2 points higher than Luxembourg on this rating. If you look at the average class of the last 3, Rebels Romance and Next would be the only qualifiers. So what I'm going to do to expand this a little bit, I'm going to just look at Rebels Romance as an outlier, and then I'm going to look at the next level down. So we've got Luxembourg at 124.1. We're going to take that down to 122.1, and that's going to let us look at Emily Upjohn, Jay Uribe, or whatever that horse is, Jayaribe, JRB, or Illinois. Emily Upjohn is probably going in the filly and mare turf. So we're looking at Luxembourg, Jayaribe, and Illinois there. And then if I go over there, the top two, I'm going to even overlook Next, because Next is also probably not going to be in this race. So I'm going to start 122.9 and go to 120.9. So the ones in there are, again, Luxembourg, Jayaribe, Illinois. The other two, Emily Upjohn and Wingspan, are likely for the filly and mare turf, so they're probably not going to be in here. So right off of that, the top four contenders would be Rebels Romance, Luxembourg, Jayaribe, and Illinois. So those would be the top contenders based on class. So then looking at the contenders, I'm going to just go back to the beginning and look at these horses one at a time. Cabo Spirit, I just, looking at the numbers for this race, you can see the early pace 92-100, and the late pace par is 91, and the par speed figure for this race is 100. Okay, so when factoring all that into account, Cabo Spirit never run anywhere near par and never run at 1.5 miles. So to me, that's just an instant forget about it toss. The next runner, Content, however that name is to be taken. 3-year-old filly, pretty nice, bit off form in the last two. Don't like to see that. Coming back from the August layoff to October, got 2 off-form races there at these 2 levels, 2 important races, the Prix de l'Opera and the Ascot British Champion Filly and Mare Stakes, both bad finishes. And this one's likely for the filly and mare turf, so I'm not going to look at her as a contender here. But based off that form, I would not make her a contender anyway, even though she's been running at high-class races and even won at a race rating of 119 here in the Yorkshire Oaks in August. Continuous. This one is not, again, this is really a very similar look as the last horse had. Even though he has won on turf, he's 0 for 5 at the distance. So right off the bat, that's a big negative. And with him not being in the upper rankings of the class, brisk class ratings, and these last 2 finishes are awful, I just can't go with that. He did run in the ARC, but finished 15th by 20 lengths. Usually the ARC winners who are finish outside of winning, but usually finish in the top 4 or maybe the top 6 or 7 with respectable beaten lengths, are the type of horses that can come over and win, not the horse that was, annihilated like this in its last 2 races. So I do not see Continuous as a contender in this race. El Encinal from Argentina ran a couple races here, nowhere near being able to run to a level that could win this race. Emily Upjohn, running likely in the filly and mare turf. If she does run here, I would just give her an outside chance. She's a good horse, but I think there's a couple other opportunities that are going to be better than her. Farbridge is the main U.S. Threat in this race. You can see what he's been running against, and decent finishes, good at the distance, can get the 1.5 miles, winning the Turf Classic at Belmont, at Aqueduct, and the Sword Dancer last two. Had an off race in the United Nations and a respectable finish in the Manhattan at Saratoga, finishing third. So as far as the U.S. horses go, that's the top contender. Gold Phoenix, talked about a little bit already. Don't think he could win. Could hit the board, possibly. Grand Sonata would be the second U.S. contender who has a shot to win this race. This is a Pletcher horse. Pletcher had won this race in the past with English Channel, who's a very similar type of pattern to this one here, and coming through this kind of same races, the typical U.S. pattern, United Nations Sword Dancer Turf Cup. So he's okay. He's got a first and then lost by a nose, 2 back. He had a bad race in the Sword Dancer. Outside contender, though, not a huge shot for him. Sleeper horse. This is the one who I'm really favoring. This is the Aidan O'Brien sharp horse, 3-year-old colt. This one is the type that you want to see. Has run successfully at the distance, has good solid form. 9 lifetime races, never out of the top 3. Won his last. Won the Prix Chardonnay on Arc Day at 1 7/8 miles. He is a real nice opportunity here, and probably going to be my top pick right now in the overseas bettings, around 7-1. JRB is a 3-year-old colt. Interesting colt. He has a shot. I don't see him to be as effective here as Illinois. He has not done the 1.5 miles yet, but he certainly is bred for it. But for him to jump up and do this, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him than it is for Illinois. But I've got to treat him as a contender here. Luxembourg, I think, is the worst of the O'Brien contingent. I'm kind of looking at him as just an in-the-money potential, not really a win candidate. Next is likely for the Classic. Rebels Romance obviously could win this race. Definitely the class of this field. With that being said, I'm not enamored with taking shorter price favorites. He's probably going to be around 2-1 or so. And if I'm going to be looking at 7 or 8-1 on Illinois, then I'm going there. If I can get 10-1 on Jay Uribe, I'm going to go and also bet him. But Rebels Romance would have to be on any of your horizontals for sure, and included in any vertical bets. He had a little bit of off form here in 23. His 23 campaign was pretty much awful. There must have been something wrong with him, because you can see after he won the Breeders' Cup in 22, 5th November 22 at Keeneland, he was laid off till March, came back. He had the 3 races in 23, which were terrible. They gave him a break from October to December, came back at Kempton then and won and got back to good form. So he may have had some type of injury that they figured out what his problem was. They got him back on track, and he's been pretty much a demon since then, getting 5 of his last 6 with the third. He only lost there in the King George in July, and he was beaten by Goliath and Blue Stocking, who won the Arc. So no shame there. So he's, obviously legitimate contender. Rousham Park, Japanese horse. Never at the distance, and the form is not great. Just too much to overcome for him. We've got better options. Sharyar, another Japanese horse, the other 6-year-old. Nice horse, but again, I think we've got better options than Sharyar. There goes Harvard, may not even get in. Wingspan, filly and mare turf. So coming back here to the summary sheet, the true contenders are going to be Rebels Romance, Illinois, Jay Uribe of the Europeans. I'm assuming next Emily Upjohn Content are going to other races. And then for the American horses, Farbridge and Grand Sonata would be the contenders. So that's a group of 5 out of the 14. The odds are going to dictate this, but my rankings are going to be Illinois definitely on top. Then I'll be looking for, I'm going to try to beat Rebels Romance, but I'm going to probably maybe favor Jay Uribe personally a little bit over Farbridge, just for looking for some value there. So a lot of this will depend on what these horses are looking like on the track and at the workouts coming up over the weekend. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But right now, I think Illinois is a really good value play in the turf.